Is God angry? Is there a punishment waiting for you on the other side? Religion usually says yes, but the people that have actually died, they describe something completely different.
The love is the most profound thing. That's the first thing you know. It's unconditional and it's infinite.
I thought I was going to break down in uncontrollable crying from love. There was so much love pouring from this being that it was overwhelming. It was paralyzing.
And the voice is saying inside me without sound, I love you. I've always known you. I've always known these things about you. I've known you since you were created. I've known the long tail of your soul. I know what you were like to be a human being in this life. I love you as you are. I made you. I've always known you. I've always loved you.
It didn't matter what I had done in my life, good or bad, that I was just loved for who I was.
It didn't matter what I had done. That one sentence dismantles pretty much every religion on the planet. So who do we believe? Religion or the thousands of people that have actually claimed to have experienced it? If near-death experiencers are correct, why did we just spend thousands of years believing in a God of punishment? To solve this paradox, we're going to need to examine a text that bridges the gap between the feelings of NDEs and the rules of religion. Back in 1857, a man named Allan Kardec put together what is basically an owner's manual for the soul. Now, why should you care about a book written in the 1850s? Because this wasn't just one person's opinion or a divine revelation given to a single prophet. It was actually put together scientifically. Kardec wasn't a medium or a mystic. He used mediums as sort of a spiritual telephone, sending the exact same questions to dozens of different mediums across multiple countries. His goal wasn't to hear the medium's opinions, he wanted to hear what the spirits themselves had to say. This research completely changed Kardec's perspective.
It's amazing. Everything the spirits have told me has completely changed the way I see life, our responsibilities, and our future. Their teachings form a whole new way of understanding the world, one that makes sense, is clear and comforting, and answers so many big questions. I'm thinking about putting these conversations into a book. If they interest me this much, maybe they will help others too.
You can think of it like this. If near-death experiences are the eyewitness accounts of what it feels like to die, then the Spirit's book is the owner's manual that explains how our souls are actually designed to work. And that includes how we got God so wrong for thousands of years. So what was the fundamental mistake we were making? According to the Spirit's book, we spent thousands of years terrified of God because we were actually making God in our image.
Will humans ever fully understand the mystery of God?
Yes, but only when their spirits are free from the limits of the physical world and they've grown spiritually pure enough to be closer to God. Then they'll be able to understand.
Humans can't fully understand God right now because their abilities are still limited. In the early stages of spiritual growth, people often think of God as having human qualities, including flaws. But as they grow morally and think more deeply about the world, their understanding of God becomes clearer and more reasonable, even if it's never completely perfect.
Because we have tempers, we assumed God had one. Because we judged, we assumed God must be judging too. We took our human flaws and projected them onto God. The reality is that we're still in our spiritual infancy. There are things about the universe and the afterlife that we simply don't have the maturity or even the mental capacity to understand yet.
Can humans fully understand what God is like?
No, they don't have the ability to comprehend it.
Will they ever understand the mysteries that are hidden from them now?
Yes, but only as they grow spiritually and become purer. To understand some things, they'll need abilities they don't have yet. There are many things your mind cannot yet grasp, but that doesn't mean they aren't true. A child doesn't understand everything their parents know, and someone without an education won't understand what a scholar does.
We couldn't understand the complex law of love So we used fear to fill in the blanks. We assumed there was a judge because we just weren't mature enough to understand the mechanics quite yet. But as these near-death experiencers report, the moment you step out of the physical body, all of those childish fears start to evaporate.
And that's what got me, was that God not only loves us, but really likes us. And the best part was that God likes us as is. God doesn't say, when you do something noteworthy, when you fulfill your purpose, when you stop being stupid or foolish or sleeping too late or, playing on the computer, when you stop and start doing the right thing, you'll be loved. The message was, you are so loved. You are so appreciated. Gosh, we like you.
Now, for those of you who have already started reading the Spirit's book, or maybe you've tried to read it in the past and got discouraged, you might be asking a very fair question. If the reality is unconditional love, then why did the spirits tell Allan Kardec that there were punishments for our actions? It feels like a massive contradiction, but I can guarantee you, it's not what you think. If you pick up the Spirit's book for the first time, you're going to see words that might trigger you. Words like sin, guilt, and punishment. But you have to look at who was asking the questions. Allan Kardec was a devout Catholic in France in the 1850s. For Catholics in the 1800s, all they knew was sin, guilt, and punishment. So the spirits were talking to him in a way that he would understand, and more importantly, in a way that he wouldn't immediately reject. Listen to how they explain their teaching strategy.
We can only share this knowledge based on what you're ready to understand. Not everyone is prepared to learn about these things, and revealing too much could confuse some people.
Why do some highly advanced spirits give answers about hell and purgatory that match common beliefs?
They use words and ideas that the person asking can understand. If someone strongly believes in specific ideas, spirits may avoid shocking them too much so they don't reject the message. For example, if a spirit bluntly told a Muslim that Muhammad wasn't a prophet, the message wouldn't be well received.
They were meeting Kardec where he was. They used the vocabulary he already had in his head to slowly guide him to a deeper truth.
Why didn't the spirits teach these lessons from the very beginning?
You don't teach children the same way you teach adults. Just like you don't give newborns food they can't handle. Everything has its time. In the past, the spirits taught many things that people either misunderstood or distorted. Now, humanity is ready to understand. Even though their earlier teachings were incomplete, they prepared the ground for the ideas that are now ready to grow and flourish.
Think about how we teach math to a child in the 3rd grade. We tell them there's nothing less than 0, and in math, we only use numbers. Can't use letters in math. The teachers aren't trying to be misleading. The students just aren't ready to understand certain concepts yet. But as the student matures and their knowledge grows, the teacher starts to introduce negative numbers and then variables like x and y. The student just became ready to understand and handle more complexity. The spirits were doing the exact same thing with Kardec. They used the concepts of sin and punishment because that was the 3rd grade spiritual language he understood. But by the time he got to question 964, he was finally ready for the algebra of the soul.
Does God really pay attention to all our actions to reward or punish us? Aren't most of them too small for God to care about?
God created divine laws that guide all your actions. When you break these laws, the consequences are your responsibility. For example, if someone eats too much, God doesn't directly say, "You've been a glutton, so I'm punishing you." Instead, God has set natural limits. Illnesses or even death can result from excess. So the punishment comes naturally from breaking the law. That's how everything works.
That's how everything works. That's one of the most important sentences in the entire book. The spirits are explaining that cause and effect isn't just for physical things like eating too much or touching a hot stove. It also applies to our minds and our emotions.
If people often cause their physical problems, do they also cause their mental suffering?
Even more so, because physical problems can sometimes happen without their control. But mental suffering often comes from within. Hurt pride, crushed ambition, greed, envy, jealousy. All these feelings torment the soul. Envy and jealousy are the worst. People who suffer from these emotions are never at peace. They constantly think about what they don't have or what others do, making them miserable. These feelings haunt them day and night, even in their dreams. It's like living in a constant fever. Would anyone want to feel that way? These emotions create a personal punishment, turning life into a kind of self-made hell.
You see, you're not being punished for your jealousy, you're being punished by your jealousy. The torment you feel is the teacher. Think about that. It's a mechanism built into the fabric of the universe so we can learn from our mistakes organically. This changes Earth from a courtroom where you are on trial into a classroom where you are simply learning how the laws of the universe work. And as Vincent Tolman explains, the classroom has always been the real reality.
There's divine purpose behind our Earth time. The purpose to Earth is a classroom, and it never was a courtroom, no matter what religion teaches you. It's always been a classroom. In fact, most of the universe refers to Earth as Earth School, and it's one of the hardest schools there is because there is so much resistance, so much hardship here. But it's also one of the schools where you can gain the most. You live a lot harder life here, but you gain so much more than you do in other schools.
Okay, so if there's no judge waiting to punish us, then how do we explain the two most famous locations in human history, heaven and hell? Are heaven and hell real places? Or have we just been looking at the map all wrong? We've been conditioned to think of the afterlife as a destination, like a flight you board where you either land in a tropical paradise or a dark, scary basement. But the spirits told Kardec that the universe doesn't really look like that.
Are there specific places in the universe where spirits go for rewards or punishments based on their actions?
A spirit's happiness or suffering comes from within, based on how much it has improved itself. Since spirits exist everywhere, there is no single place where they are sent to be rewarded or punished.
So, punishments are never eternal?
Use your common sense. Does it seem fair for someone to suffer forever because of mistakes made in a short lifetime? Even if someone lived for 100 years, that's nothing compared to eternity. Can you even imagine what forever means? Endless suffering without hope, just for a few wrongs. Doesn't that idea seem unfair? A long time ago, people thought of God as angry and vengeful because they didn't understand any better. But the God we believe in today teaches love, kindness, and forgiveness. Wouldn't it be contradictory for God to demand that we be kind and forgiving while refusing to show the same mercy? True justice isn't about punishing forever. It's about giving everyone the chance to grow and change. That's why suffering only lasts as long as it takes for a spirit to improve itself.
Heaven and hell aren't physical places, they're internal states of being. This is what Jesus meant when he said the kingdom of heaven is within you.
In the past, people believed in fixed places for punishment and reward. They thought the earth was the center of the universe, and that the sky was a solid vault containing a specific region for stars. Heaven was imagined as being above and hell below, leading to expressions like ascending to heaven or being cast down to hell. Now, with science showing that the Earth is just one of countless small worlds among billions, and proving that space is infinite with no up or down, it's clear that heaven isn't above the clouds, and hell isn't in the Earth's depths. Purgatory, meanwhile, has never been assigned a fixed location. Spiritism has provided a more logical and comforting explanation. It teaches us that we carry both heaven and hell within ourselves.
You'll never find heaven or happiness out there. It's in here. You simply exist in the reality that matches your internal state.
What does heaven mean?
Heaven is not just one place where all good spirits gather to enjoy endless rest. Instead, it is the vast universe, planets, stars, and highly advanced worlds where spirits live freely, using all their abilities without the struggles of physical life or the hardships that come with being less advanced.
This leads us to one of the most radical ideas in the book. We're actually looking for purgatory in the wrong dimension. Now remember, Kardec was a devout Catholic, so to him, purgatory was a place you went to after death to pay for your sins. But the spirits met him where he was and gave the word a completely new definition.
What does purgatory mean?
It means physical and emotional suffering, a time of making up for past wrongs. Most of the time, you experience your purgatory right here on earth, where God gives you chances to correct your mistakes.
The physical world isn't a waiting room, it's a weight room, a gym for our soul. It's easy to be loving in a realm of pure love, but you come here to earth to learn how to keep that love alive when things are not so easy, when they're hard. You're here to face the tests that actually change your character, the same way a toddler goes to school to learn how to share. But the mistake most people make is thinking that death is a personality transplant. They think they'll magically become perfect and happy the moment their heart stops. The spirits are very clear. You are the same person on both sides of the veil. And this is exactly what people report when they die.
I was making little jokes to myself and I was realizing I was myself, but I was completely happy. And I felt like this major weight had been lifted from me.
I thought, wow, every single thing I am, down to my funny little giggle, has made this transition. My macabre sense of humor, my goofiness, and I cannot begin to tell you how immensely comforting it was that every single thing I really am had made this transition.
The book suggests that while traits tied to our physical biology or our brain chemistry fall away, our true character remains.
Why don't spirits let go of their harmful passions after leaving Earth, especially since they can see the harm they cause?
In your world, there are extremely jealous people. Do you think they'll suddenly let go of that flaw after passing on? When spirits leave the earth, they are not immediately free from the influence of the material world, especially those who are deeply attached to their passions. They have an aura or atmosphere around them filled with those negative traits. They will eventually catch glimpses of the truth, which begins to reveal the moral path they need to follow.
If you haven't done the work here to rid yourself of negative traits, you don't just wake up with them magically gone on the other side. You can think of it like a filter. While your physical burdens are gone, your spiritual baggage survives.
What's the point of those passions if they can't be satisfied?
That's exactly what makes it so painful for them. Misers see gold they can't have. Greedy people see feasts they can't enjoy. And prideful spirits see honors they envy but can't receive.
If your happiness is tied to things you can no longer touch, like money, status, or material pleasures, those attachments follow you. So again, you aren't being punished for your greed, you're being punished by your greed. You're still touching that same hot stove, not with your hands, but with your mind and emotions, even on the other side. And the manual is pretty clear about how we can avoid that burn.
We understand that people will be happy on Earth when humanity is finally transformed. But can anyone enjoy happiness now?
Most of the time, people create their own unhappiness. If they would follow God's laws, they would avoid many troubles and find as much happiness as life on earth can provide.
We often face difficulties in life because of our mistakes. Many of the problems we call misfortunes result from ignoring the divine laws that guide our lives, making poor choices, or overindulging. If we looked closely at our struggles, we'd see that they often started with a wrong decision that led us down the wrong path, and step by step, into trouble.
Divine law helps everyone understand their limits, and when they go beyond them, you often suffer as a result. If people listen to the inner voice that says, "That's enough," they would avoid many of the problems they blame on nature.
What makes good spirits happy?
Good spirits are happy because they don't feel hatred, jealousy, envy, ambition, or any of the emotions that make people unhappy, and they gain a deep understanding of the universe and its mysteries.
Just remember, if you're stuck in a cycle of craving, the door to the classroom is never locked from the outside. You just have to be the one to turn the door handle. Think about a child throwing a temper tantrum. They lock themselves in their room, feeling completely frustrated and alone. To that child, the world is a cold, dark, and angry place. But the truth is, the parent is standing right outside the door. They aren't angry, they aren't upset. They're simply just waiting for the child to get over their temper tantrum and come back into their arms. Our self-made suffering is no different. God isn't the one who locked the door. We are. We might spend a lifetime trapped in a hell of our own making, but the moment we choose to turn toward the light, we realize that the love never actually left us, just right on the other side of the door. Near-death experiencers often describe this as a sudden shift in clarity, the moment they stop focusing on their own turmoil and start looking for a way out.
This thing about leaving this world in an astonished state, you're going to bump around in these low vibrational places until you can sort out that astonishment. And for some, it could be a long time. One woman was in a coma for weeks. And at one point she sorted it out and she started singing a spiritual song that she sang in church. And she popped right out of hell. And she said that most of the time she had no idea she was dead.
Picture God as a good shepherd, searching for lost sheep, not to leave them behind, but to bring them back home. Or imagine God as a loving parent, always ready to welcome you back with open arms.
Once we move out of the courtroom and into the classroom, the entire meaning of our lives shifts. And as it turns out, that lesson we're here to learn is actually incredibly simple.
What I ultimately learned from the whole thing was that we were created to love one another. That's our job. That's the curriculum. That's the whole thing in a nutshell, and that's the only thing that matters.
We aren't here to be judged. We're here to learn how to love. Now that sounds simple, but how exactly does that look in practice? The manual defines it like this.
Loving others means doing as much good for them as possible, just as you would want others to do for you. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "Love one another as brothers and sisters." The teachings of higher spirits can be summarized by one simple rule from Jesus. Treat others the way you want to be treated. This means choosing to do good instead of harm. By following this rule, people can always know the right way to act, even in small, everyday situations.
That's it. That's the final exam. Love. Love your neighbor as yourself. Simple, but not necessarily easy. If you're ready for the full owner's manual for the soul, the Spirits book answers over 1,000 questions on the mechanics of the soul, the purpose of life, and what exactly is waiting for us on the other side. Check the link in the video description to experience it for yourself. The next video I want to make about the book is how to tell how advanced your soul is. So if you're interested in that video and you're not subscribed, make sure you click subscribe so you can be notified when I release the video. If you are a time traveler and you're watching this in the future and I've already completed the video, it's going to be right here. If you don't see anything right here, you're not a time traveler, you're stuck here in the present with me. And you can click right here. This is what YouTube thinks you would like to watch next. So if you're in the future, click here. If you're in the present, click here. I'll see you next time or in the next video. Bye.